Hey readers, welcome back to Editorial's channel. Today I will be discussing about the books which I read in the quarter 1 of my age 20. So on 18 May 2026 I was born. So as I was 19, I had decided that I would divide my 20th year into 4 groups. That is quarter in 4 quarters. So and it was amazing idea. So from 18 May to August 16 it was quarter 1, and today is August 17, so it means that I have started my quarter 2. It was best idea, especially I would highly recommend to all to divide their year or their birthday year into 4 parts and set goals according to the quarterly than yearly, because I have seen as a 18-year-old 19-year-old I have set my yearly goals and they were not achievable at all, because if you see 12 months period is really long, but 3-month period is quite short, then you can have an update on your goals, because there are times when the goal which I want to achieve right now might not be the goal which I want to achieve a year later. So in that case it is really great idea to set your goals in quarterly. So today I will be discussing about the books which I read in my quarter 1, and quarter 1 of my year 20 was quite surprising, because when I had started the quarter 1 I had thought that I never thought that I would like to that it would change me, and by the start of the quarter 2 I really want to read fiction, because earlier I have been reading books since I had turned like 17, I guess. Since 17. So I have had also I have only read books around non-fiction world. So earlier I used to only read non-fiction books, only one book at a time. Then sometime later I had started the ritual of reading 2 books at a day. One book used to be the book which I have never read, non-fiction, and one non-fiction book which I have already read. But this the same thing which I did in quarter 1 of my 20. But as right now in the front of the quarter 2, I'm not looking forward to do that. I don't know why, but I feel as a teenager I had kept myself in a box of non-fiction books, and a person who is in their 20s shouldn't keep themselves in the box as a reader too. I feel it is my year 20, and 20s are supposed to be explore. It is for exploration and fun, and I'm introduced to world of fiction now. So yeah, to the world of fiction I had started with the book Days of Murasaki Bookshop. We'll come back to it, and that's why in quarter 2 I will be doing is reading one book, non-fiction book, around anything business, psychology and etc stuff, and one book would be fiction book which I have issued today from my college library. The incident from my college library was, it is I guess first time in my college, I don't know what, but now we can directly get into the now our college has made it an open library, open access library, where we can go and take the book by ourselves and issue it for ourselves for a week. So yeah, that was a great addition to my reading journey. So yeah, so today I will be talking about the books which I read and left in middle during this time. So yeah, let's see. So to your context, these are the books which I read, half read and read in my year 20. So let's begin. So let's start with the book which I had reread in this pile. And surprisingly, the fact is, the books which I had already read and I was rereading them in the quarter 1 were the books I left in halfway. So yeah. So These are the four books which I reread. I must say, like, uh, the most amount of the book I have read this 70% reread, and these were the books I hardly read, like 20-25%. I don't know why, but it just felt me right moment to leave that book. And I don't know what is wrong with this book, how to read a book, but whenever I start this book, I just, and for the first time when I read this book, I had literally skimmed through the book. Like, it just, for the reading sake, I read that. It had happened to me like that. Like, many of the books which we read, it unconsciously happened that we are reading it unconsciously. Like, we are just reading it without understanding it, because we just want to finish that book so fast. Again, it happened with me this again. I just feel it's just not right time for me to read this. Also, but 0 to 1, it is a book which I had not read earlier, sorry. But I left it in this because it was becoming too serious to me, I guess. But I'm looking forward to read this book in quarter 2 though. So yeah. Psychology of Money and The Almanac of Ravikant. The beauty with while reading the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, when the first time I read it, I had skimmed through it, but the second time I read it properly. I read it for like 70%, but I read it genuinely properly. Better than the first time when I read. So rereading, I highly recommend. Psychology of Money, I don't know why, but when first time I read it, it was really, really good. And second time, I just wasn't in that mood of the seriousness. That's why I prefer to leave it behind. But it is a really, really good book, especially in your 20s. Definitely, I highly recommend to read this. And that is it. And three books which I read properly, like new books which I read, which I haven't read earlier, were the all three were like 5 out of 5 recommendation, 101%. And these three were, ta-da! So it is Body Keeps a Score by Bessel van der Kolk MD, People Called Kala Ghoda, and Days at Murasaki Bookshop. So these two are, this is non-fiction book. This is an fiction book. I would say this is like a biography of a place through people's, through audience mind and the audience mind, I would say. In which category they suit, but this is like an biography of a place only, I would say, instead of biography of people's memory of the event. Perfect definition. So yeah, like, let's begin with this book already. People Called Kala Ghoda. If you have attended Kala Ghoda festival in Mumbai, in South Mumbai, near on Kala Ghoda, it's a fabulous event. I have attended the event, I guess 3 times, but definitely 2 times I've attended. I don't remember I've attended the third time or not, but I've attended 2 times confirmed, and it's just fabulous. Art, culture, beauty, history, people, and great audience. Like, through this book I got to know that so many things happen, like movie screening happen, how many celebrities come, because every time when Kala Ghoda festival is happening, the only thing I get on my reels is the insane crowd which goes. So that's why in this year, last year when I no in this year 2026, when I went to the Kala Ghoda festival, on the first day at the 10 a.m. sharp I had went. Like, there were no crowds. How insanely I was smart. So yeah. Next book is The Body Keeps a Score. Fabulous book. Like, while reading this book, there was a part of me which really wanted to read this book and have a page turner situation, like reading it. But there was part of me which was so unhealed to read this book, and like it while reading this book, it was literally feeling like two parts of me are fighting with each other to read or not to read the book. But anyway, somehow I finished this book. It is quite thick, so yeah. But I highly recommend. In future, I definitely know this is going to be one of my most gifted books to the readers out there. 101%. I'm gonna give this book in future to my loved ones for sure. Next is The Days at the Murasaki Bookshop. This is my second fiction book. The first fiction book was Forest of Enchantments by Chitra Banerjee, Divya Kumari. We'll talk about Forest of Enchantments in different video. Like, perfect book to read as a first time fiction reader. So yeah, let's talk about it. Even this is perfect to read as a first time reader. It is very simple story about a girl who goes through a breakup, who ends up at her uncle's bookshop as a worker, as a some sort of situation. And it is quite a simple story which you read as a beginner. Like, it's not any band bacha barat, like insane story with an insane drama, nothing like that. It's just a simple story about a girl who goes through a heartbreak, what happens to her, what happens in her uncle's life. That's it. That's the story all about it. And it just simple stories like remind you that life is supposed to be like that. I'm that kind of a person while watching a movie, or I'm that kind of a person who watches South Indian movie, who watches it for the fun, and who watches cinema not for the logic, but for the fun entertainment. But still, I like this book where it is talking about a girl living her normal life. So yeah, I highly recommend this book. That's it. That's the book. These are the only books. So technically, I had only read like 3 books and like 4 or 5 books. Like, if you consider like 4 or 4.5 books in 90 days, and in my opinion, there is no competition for you to read any book, but set quarterly goals over yearly goals. I highly recommend. So yeah, that's it for today's vlog. Thank you, not vlog but video, but thank you so much. Looking forward to make these type of quarterly reads in future. So yeah, thank you, love ya.